All right, so there's cations. What were cations charged? Do you remember?
Positive.
Yeah, they're all positive. Great. So cations are positive. Their name doesn't change. So what's Na?
Sodium.
Sodium. Good. So it's sodium. All right. And when it's an ion, we would just call it sodium ion. All right. Now the symbol for sodium is Na, but what is the symbol going to be when it becomes an ion? Is sodium going to be positive? Yeah, it's going to be positive. We know that. How do you know it's going to be positive? Because I said it was a cation, right? But how are you guys going to know? Remember we filled in this periodic table?
Yeah.
So this periodic table you need to memorize, and we're going to have a quiz on this tomorrow as well. All right. So I'm going to give you a mini blank periodic table. The only thing you're going to have to label on it are the pluses and the minuses, just like we did here. Not this little atom, but you just have to be able to count to 4 and then count down from 4, right? And remembering that they're positive and they're negative.
Do we also put the middle thing?
This?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, everything that's up here. All right, just like this. Even the 0 over there for the noble gases. All right. So that's going to be on a quiz tomorrow. I'm going to write that down so we don't forget. Like EP quiz. What else we doing? Nomenclature? No. Polyatomic.
Do you have to write the elements in the table?
No, it'll be just like this without the red. Okay, so all you have to do is fill in 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus question mark plus 3 plus or minus 4, 3, 2, 1. All right? Okay. Come on. Okay, so once you check that periodic table, then you know it becomes plus 1. And the next one, come on, is the anions. Anions are negatively charged. So chlorine is Cl. And it says their ending is changed to IDE. So instead of chlorine, it's going to be chloride. All right. And what's its charge going to become?
Negative.
-1, right? Because of where it is in the groups. All right, it's -1, which we saw from yesterday. It's group 17. Everything in that group is -1. Okay, everybody cool with that, right? Great. Okay, so let's say we want to put these two things together, the Na and the Cl. We just said a second ago that Na is +1 and Cl is -1. For the +1 and -1, you could put the numbers. You don't have to. You can just put plus. How do you know that they'll go together? Opposite charges, right? Opposite charges. And now we have to figure out what the formula is going to be. All right. So when we combine these, Na plus and Cl minus, they just kind of even out, right? If you think of it like a number line, it's going to be what happens when you combine +1 and -1, you get 0, right? So that's how we know that this is going to work out. It's just going to be Na and Cl. All right? They don't always work out perfect. Sometimes we have to have more than one of them, and we'll go over what happens when we see that. What would we call this? Yeah, right.
Sodium chloride.
Sodium chloride, yep. Alright, sodium chloride. You don't have to use capitals on the words, you can. I just happen to do it sometimes I don't. That part doesn't matter for this, but when we're doing symbols, the capitals and lowercases very much so matter. Spelling does matter as well, alright? So this is why we've been learning our elements, so that we can spell this stuff correctly. Is everybody cool with that? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so let's try the first one here. It says, try combining the following, give the formula and the name. Okay, first up, what's lithium's symbol? Li. Good. And what about oxygen? Oh, what's the charge of lithium? +1 because it's in group 1. What about oxygen? Good. Okay, so in this case, what do we need more of? We need more lithium, right? pretty easy to see that we need 2 lithiums for every 1 oxygen, right? That'll balance things out, okay? There's a formula I like to use to kind of figure this out. It's gonna seem like it makes things a little bit more complicated, and it may. For this one, it makes it more complicated. But later on, when we have more complicated charges, it may make things easier for you. Let me just show you what it is, all right? I'd like you to write it down as well. What we do is we kind of put a cross between there to kind of make a grid. All right? And there's a couple things that we have in here, some options. So there's obviously charges for everything. And then there's subscripts for everything. And then there's an overall charge for everything. Now this might seem super complicated, but this is kind of like all you can do with everything is you're either going to have multiple elements, you're going to have multiple charges, and then you're going to have a total charge down at the bottom. Like for example, you guys told me a minute ago that we need another lithium, right? We need 2 lithiums, right, to balance it out. Well, think about, all right, how did you come up with that? Well, you know that oxygen's -2, right? So right now the charge down here, the total charge is -2 with just one of those oxygens. So it's -2 times 1 gives you -2. And then we know that this needs to balance out, right? Because this total needs to be 0 like we did before, all right? So with this being +2, this being -2, you get neutral. So then how did you make lithium +2? You did the 2 down here, right? So in your head, you did that automatically. This is kind of like what your thought process was. And it was so fast, you probably didn't even you didn't think about any of that. You just kind of did it. Later on, we're gonna have multiples that are a little bit more complicated where you might need to think about it. Again, some of you will just be able to do it in your head. Some of you will need to do this. Everyone right now should write this down until we kind of get comfortable with it, all right? Does that make sense, how we came up with it? Okay, so what's the formula gonna be for this lithium thing? Li what? Li2O. Good, and what would we call this? Lithium what? Yeah. Right, because you change the ending of the anion, the negative thing, to IDE. So we have our formula there, we have our name, and that's everything. Everybody cool with that? Why don't you try the next one?